everyone, thank you so much for coming back to my YouTube channel. My name is Lydia. I am your money mentor online and I'm a financial literacy advocate. I wanted to reach out to you today to talk about one of the things that one of my daughter's young friends suggested that I talk about today. And it's called how to generate wealth outside of a 9-to-5 job. How to generate wealth outside of a 9-to-5 job. So it's a really interesting conversation and I'd love for you guys to join. As you guys know, I am the queen of the side hustle. I love having side hustles. It's very important to me to do this. What that means to me though, is that I get to generate income outside of my very busy corporate job. There are 3 key ways that you could actually have a side hustle. So the first one is freelancing. If you have a skill that you use with your full-time employer, having that skill as a side hustle would mean just renting out your services to someone else. So outside of your 40-hour week or 45-hour, 50-hour week, no matter how busy it is, being able to create a time where you can freelance those valuable services to someone else and actually generate additional income. The next area of a side hustle that I feel like is very important, if I were to categorize them, is e-commerce. So being able to sell something, be it a digital product, a physical product, whatever the case may be, but using e-commerce, the internet, to sell stuff to people who you would not normally have access to. So for example, one of the things I did over Christmas was that I sold some stuff from my wardrobe. I had a few purses that I didn't want. I had a few clothes that I'd never worn, still had labels on them. I put them on Facebook Market. That's e-commerce. I got that money and I was like, yeah, great stuff. Okay, so that's another thing that I'd recommend. So you have the first aspect of a side hustle, which is freelancing your existing services. The second, for example, would be e-commerce. And the third that I'm going to talk about is dropshipping. Now, this is not as big as it used to be, but it's still something that is very important and can make you money. So dropshipping only means that you don't house the inventory that you sell online. So I had to get that stuff, those clothes from my closet. But if I were dropshipping, I'm not housing the inventory physically in my space. All I'm doing is I'm selling it and making it available through someone else who holds that stuff. So for example, if you have a supplier who sells jeans, you from the supplier, I'm a middleman, you create that online store for something that you never own, but basically they purchase the stuff from you, and your supplier, who would not have had access to that part of the community, maybe because of who they are or where they're located, now ships that directly to your customer. And you have made money without having to have anything in store. Great, isn't it? So those are the 3 areas that I encourage us to look at as far as side hustles are concerned. There are other side hustles for the ain't lazy on this area here, and that's a video that I did recently for people who are more hands-on. So feel free to dig into that as well. Now that we've talked about that, the next one, of course, would be investing, for example, in the stock market. Now, we know that the stock market tends to give 7 to 10% a return on average. So if you were to take your money, put it in the stock market, watch it as it grows, that's another great place to be able to generate wealth for yourself. Now, you have 3 areas that you could focus on. So for example, you could choose index funds. Those are grouped shares. So for example, those are shares that are grouped based on certain categories. For example, you have the S&P 500, you have the NASDAQ. NASDAQ consists of tech shares that you could access. But if you're buying on indexes, what that is, they have gathered specific indexes together and they're trading based on that indexes and the rise and fall of that index. So that would be an investment as well. You also have dividend stocks and stock growth stocks that you could look into. Those, for example, you could purchase, and hold or, maintain them for a certain length of time. So those are key ones that you can do as well. There are other areas that you can make money of. Less active, for example, more passive. Now, I don't believe there's anything that's 100% passive, but there are things that you could definitely do that you could work less for. 2 of those, for example, are real estate and royalties. Real estate, you buy that property, maybe you fix it up. Every so often you have to do a rehab, to cover any damage that your tenants have done. But the beauty of it is that you don't have to go to that place every day for 8 hours a day. On the flip side, you also have royalties. For example, you could write a book. Think of any good writer who's written a book. They wrote that book once. They might do a part 2 or part 3, but the bottom line is they wrote that book once and they never had to do it again. That is the beauty of royalties, an almost passive income. You do the work up front, you get it later. You get your money later. Okay, so those are some more passive options that we could look at. And last but not least, another almost passive kind is content creation, which is what I'm doing now. I choose a topic of choice, I choose a style of producing it, and I put it out there for the world. Now, typically, you would create that product once, be it a video or whatever it is you're creating. Now, remember, with content creation, though, it's not really passive because you have to continue doing it until you choose to retire. One of my great content creators who I absolutely love retired now after about 10 years of having done this. She has chosen to do something else which generates income that is a little bit more passive. Yeah. She has chosen to do syndication, which is a way of gathering money to help people invest together in real estate, for example. So definitely an area that some people can consider. But those are typical passive or less active income streams. So there are, aside from those, alternative assets that you could consider. Now, these are the people who actually understand investing. I would not recommend it for someone who has a little bit of money. But you could do peer-to-peer lending, for example. There are sites where you could go to and you could lend out your money, or you have people, for example, who do hard money, who lend money to investors who want to build on their properties and develop them and withdraw that money out of it. It's an interesting world to be in if you're doing peer-to-peer lending, but just bear in mind that the risks tend to be a little bit higher because you are lending to someone who may not have as much money or work ethic to do the work that they need that money for. So, for example, if you wanted to do a big rehab on a property and you didn't have cash, you would probably go to someone who would be a peer-to-peer lender who would lend you that money at usually a typically higher interest rate. So the risk is high, the reward can be high, but it's something to consider only if you know what you're doing. You could lose a lot of money doing that if you're not careful. You also have cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, you name it. Now, what we know about the alternative assets like Bitcoin or any kind of cryptocurrency, some of them do great, some of them absolutely don't. So unless you're fully aware of what they're doing, don't invest. I know for sure I've lost money on cryptocurrencies. So be smart about it. Don't put a lot of your money in if you're not willing to lose it. And of course, some of them win, like Bitcoin, which we know is doing great right now. I think it hit £100,000 last week or something, $100,000 last week per Bitcoin. But bear in mind, it goes up and it goes down. Another area that we can talk about is collectibles. So some people collect stuff and they sell them later on. Great idea, right? I'm sure we've all heard of the Antique Roadshow. They were actually in our area recently and my two friends went off to view it. It's not something I typically enjoy, but I do feel like you can actually sell those products if you feel that later on you're ready to sell them and you've collected them throughout time. I collect things that aren't necessarily valuable. So, for example, I collect shot glasses. I love them. I go anywhere I go in the world, or any of my friends go, they bring me shot glasses because they know I have a collection. But those, for example, are not things that typically increase in value. It's just a collection that I have. But if you collect things that increase in value and you can sell later on, definitely worth doing. Last but not least, you can monetize your skills and knowledge. So, for example, you might be extremely good with carpentry, okay? Not everyone knows how to do that. It could be interior decorating. You might be amazing at it. And you could just create a way that you can monetize those skills and the knowledge that you have. That could be something as simple as creating a course. Now, course creation is not easy, but it is something that you create and you could actually use later on through the money that it generates. So you make it once and it generates money for the long term. So course creation is awesome. Coaching and consulting. But coaching and consulting is a really good way for you to be able to generate income or wealth from the knowledge that you have gained. You might have gone to school for 3 years to do your design course, for example, right? And you can just monetize that skill by creating a course that then generates income for you. Or you could actually talk to someone and coach them in the process of developing their skills as well. Okay, so this is something that coaching and consulting, I feel, is something that if you're willing to do the one-to-one work, you can actually do pretty well. And I constantly get bombarded with adverts from people who are saying, I could help you build your coaching business. But just bear in mind, not everyone delivers what they promise, but this is something that can definitely help you hone your skills and help someone else develop their skills as well. Another way of generating some income for yourself is, of course, tutoring. Teaching and tutoring. Okay, it's not uncommon. People need one-to-one help for certain subjects. For example, I am not the best at math. I will raise my hand to that. And if I had to take an exam today, I would need a tutor. I suck at it. So it will be important for me to be able to do that. And there are multiple platforms that allow you to do this and generate income. So I hope those help. And there will be a part 2 to this, because I don't want to do this in one stretch. But how can we generate wealth from other sources outside of our 9 to 5? I will continue this in part 2. So all I'm asking you to do right now is the 3 things I ask of you every time we talk. The first is that you like this video, that you subscribe to my channel, and the third is that you share this video with someone who you think will actually be able to generate wealth through some of these options. Okay, I will talk to you later, and I'll see you on the next one.